I didn't catch her cheating by snooping. I caught her because I stopped believing a single word she said. I always thought betrayal would come with noise. Screaming. A slammed door. Something dramatic. Instead, it came quietly, like carbon monoxide, colorless, odorless, and lethal if you stayed too long. By the time I noticed, the poison was already inside my chest, spreading every time she smiled at her phone and told me it was just work. I'm not a clever guy. I've never been the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm the reliable one. The show up early, stay late, do what needs doing kind of man. I don't shine. I don't dominate conversations. I don't threaten to leave. I believed, really believed, that if you build a steady life brick by brick, it holds. My wife and I had been married 12 years. Mortgage. 1 kid. Shared routines. Shared exhaustion. The boring, sacred stuff people swear by when they say real marriage. I thought stability was love. She didn't. Emily was always louder than life. Beautiful in a way that demanded attention, even when she pretended she didn't want it. Quick with jokes. Faster with complaints. She used to tell me, half laughing, half accusing, "You're too calm. It's like nothing ever happens with you." I heard personality differences. What she meant was dissatisfaction. Back then, I brushed it off. Everyone complains. Marriage gets quiet. That's normal, right? Then it got silent. Not peaceful silence. Strategic silence. She stopped arguing. And Emily never stopped arguing unless she'd already decided something without me. She was home every night, but not with me. Her eyes lived inside her phone. She smiled at messages she never shared. When I asked how her day was, she gave summaries so polished they sounded rehearsed. That's the part no one warns you about. Cheating doesn't start with sex. It starts with editing the truth. I didn't check her phone. Didn't follow her. Didn't hire a PI or play detective. I did something worse. I went quiet. I stopped asking questions. Stopped reacting. Stopped filling the space she used to hide in. When you stop being the background noise that makes lying comfortable, people slip. They talk too much. They contradict themselves. They reveal things without realizing it. My son noticed before I did. He was 9. Smart. Observant in that terrifying way kids are when you think they're not paying attention. One night, out of nowhere, he asked, "Dad, why does Mom laugh with her phone when she's sad with us?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break something. A few days later, he said he hadn't meant to listen, but he heard her on the phone calling someone Jake and saying I was convenient. Not useless. Not bad. Convenient. That word didn't explode. It collapsed. Like a load-bearing beam snapping inside a house that still looks fine from the outside. I didn't confront her. Not then. I watched. She started disappearing emotionally first, then physically. Girls' nights, work trips, needing space. She talked about feeling unappreciated, about wanting to feel alive again. She wasn't confiding in me. She was practicing her defense. One night, thinking I was asleep, she said it out loud on the phone, calm as a weather report. "He's a good guy, just not my person." No anger. No guilt. A diagnosis. That was the moment I stopped being her husband in my head. I became a witness. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't try to win her back. I quietly stepped out of the marriage before she realized I'd seen the exit sign. I moved money. I documented schedules. I adjusted my work hours. Not for revenge, for clarity. For my kid. For the version of myself I'd need after the dust settled. A month later, the truth finally showed its teeth. She told me she was visiting a friend for the weekend. Packed light. Too light. When she reached the door, I said, "I know." That was it. No proof. No accusations. Her face drained of color. "What do you know?" she asked. "Enough," I said. Liars panic when you don't need explanations anymore. This is where everything started to unravel, but that comes later. For now, I'm here because I need advice. Because silence can protect you, but it can also isolate you. And because if you're reading this and something feels off in your marriage, listen to that feeling. It's not paranoia. It's your instincts waking up. People love to say, "You'll know for sure when you see proof." That's a lie. Proof doesn't arrive with certainty. It arrives with nausea. For me, it was a Friday. Nothing dramatic. No intuition screaming in my head. Just a regular, forgettable Friday that split my life clean in two. She forgot her laptop at home. Emily never forgot her laptop. She guarded it like it was a limb. Face down, password, notifications off. Privacy wasn't a boundary anymore. It was a bunker. She called me around noon. Voice too casual. Hey, did I leave my laptop on the counter? I looked at it. Black. Closed. Innocent. Yeah, I said. A pause. Half a second too long. Don't open it, she said, then laughed. It's just work stuff. That laugh sealed it. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I waited an hour. Made coffee. Sat down. Told myself I was just checking something practical. Calendar, bills, nothing invasive. That's the lie you tell yourself, so you can still recognize your reflection afterward. The password was my birthday. I wish I could say I felt something sharp. Anger. Rage. Vindication. I didn't. I felt hollow. Her email was open. Not messages. She was smarter than that. Drafts. People forget drafts exist. They're where you tell the truth without committing to it. There were pages of them. Conversations she never planned to send because she'd already said them out loud to someone else. Complaints about me. About our marriage. About how safe I was. How predictable. How she deserved more. Then I saw his name. Not a stranger. Not some faceless guy from the internet. Someone I knew. Someone who'd been in our house. I won't write his full name here, not to protect him, but because just saying it still makes me grind my teeth. Let's call him Jake. He wasn't a fantasy. He was real. Tangible. Close enough to shake my hand and look me in the eye. The messages weren't romantic the way movies pretend affairs are. No poetry. No soulmates. They were practical. Logistics. Hotels. Excuses. Complaints about me, like I was an outdated appliance. One line burned itself into my brain. He won't notice. He never does. That's when my hands started shaking. I closed the laptop. Walked away. Came back. Opened it again. Took screenshots of everything with my phone. Not for revenge, but because I knew if I didn't, she'd convince me it never existed. Gaslighters erase evidence first. Memories second. When Emily came home that night, I looked at her differently. Like she was already gone, but her body hadn't caught up yet. She kissed me. Asked what was for dinner. Told me I seemed tired. I almost told her everything right there. Instead, I watched her lie to my face with perfect muscle control. No tells. No guilt. Just efficiency. That's when the anger finally showed up. Not loud, not explosive, but cold and surgical. I realized something important that night. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system, and systems don't break unless you dismantle them. I didn't sleep. I didn't confront her. I didn't cry. By morning, I wasn't a husband anymore. I was an observer in my own marriage, watching it rot from the inside, waiting for the exact moment to decide how much damage I was willing to survive, and how much I'd make sure she couldn't avoid. People say you'll catch someone in the act. That's the kind of drama movies love. Real life doesn't work like that. Real life whispers. It nags. It waits until you're quiet, exhausted, and then hits you like a punch you can't dodge. For me, it was a Tuesday. Nothing special. No intuition screaming. Just a normal morning. Coffee, cereal, school drop-off. I walked past her laptop on the kitchen counter, closed. Innocent. But then I remembered. She left it open once before, by accident. Drafts. Conversations she never hit send on. The truth hiding in plain sight. I sat down. Opened the laptop. Password, my birthday. How ironic. Inside, it wasn't pretty. Drafts, emails, text logs, pages and pages of evidence she thought I'd never see. Complaints about me. How I was predictable, too convenient, safe, but boring. And then, Jake. Someone she'd been seeing. Someone I knew. Someone who'd been in our house, shaking my hand, laughing at my jokes, while she whispered about me behind closed doors. The messages weren't romantic. Not like movies. No poetry. No declarations of love. Just logistics. Hotels. Times. Alibis. Every word carefully curated to make her absence plausible, to make her lies seamless. And one line hit me like a brick wall. He won't notice. He never does. Her words, typed in casual arrogance, confirmed what I'd feared all along. I felt hollow. Not angry. Not betrayed. Hollow. I took screenshots. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't follow her. Not yet. Because when people think you don't know, they keep talking. They slip. They reveal everything without realizing it. That night, she came home smiling, glowing even. She kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day, set the table, joked with our son. She smelled like the perfume she wore when she knew she'd been successful, when the lie had been executed without consequence. I watched her lie with perfect composure. I didn't speak. I didn't accuse. I didn't need to. I realized something crucial. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a system, a machine of deceit that had run so smoothly for months it nearly fooled me. I couldn't undo what happened. I couldn't erase the months of lies. But I could prepare. Because the moment you confront someone who's been lying for months, you hand them the power of reaction. And I wasn't going to give her that. I became patient, observant, calculating. By morning, I wasn't just hurt. I wasn't just betrayed. I was ready. And Emily had no idea the trap she'd built for herself. There's a special kind of hell reserved for people who know the truth, but have to pretend they don't. Every morning after that Tuesday felt like putting on a mask. Husband, provider, calm, dependable background character. I played the role so well that even I almost believed it. She didn't suspect a thing. That's what made it worse. Emily got bolder, brighter, almost joyful. The guilt she'd been carrying finally had somewhere else to go, so she stopped dumping it on me. Complained less, smiled more, hummed while cooking. Our marriage looked better from the outside, but inside, it was already dead. I watched her like a scientist. Patterns, schedules, timelines. She was careful, but not perfect. Careful people slip when they feel safe. And Emily felt very safe. She began rewriting history aloud. We've been unhappy for years, she said casually, testing sentences. Or, you were never really there for me. Not accusations. Not cries for help. Just statements to anchor her own story, the hero she'd built herself into. I didn't argue. That confused her. People who lie need resistance. Conflict validates their story. When you don't fight back, it destabilizes them. They don't know which version of reality you're standing in. She started probing. Little questions disguised as concern. Are you okay lately? You seem distant. Did I do something wrong? I gave her nothing. Neutral answers. Shrugs. Silence. Inside, I was documenting everything. Late nights, she claimed were work, but smelled like hotel shampoo. Calls on the balcony she thought were private. Clothes she wore differently on errands. I didn't need proof anymore. I needed consistency. And then there was our son, Lucas. Watching him across the table, happily telling stories about school, while I carried this weight of betrayal, it crushed me. I hated her for risking his sense of safety for cheap thrills and attention. One night, after she thought Lucas was asleep, Emily said something that finally drained any remaining sympathy I had for her. You've changed, she said. Calm. Curious. You don't need me like you used to. That's when I realized something terrifyingly clear. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me she could control. The comfort, the predictability, the stability. I was the house she lived in while dreaming about a better view. That's when I made my decision. Not about divorce yet. Not about confrontation. About timing. Because the biggest mistake people make is thinking truth alone is enough. It isn't. Truth without preparation just hands power back to the liar. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to let her rewrite me into the villain of her story. If this marriage ended, and it would end on my terms. Quietly. Precisely. And Emily wouldn't even realize it until it was already over. Once you accept that someone is actively betraying you, you stop seeing them as a spouse and start seeing them as a variable in your life. Unpredictable, dangerous, and entirely in your control if you play it right. I didn't rush to a lawyer. I didn't announce anything. I didn't threaten. I did what people like me do when life gets serious. I prepared quietly, thoroughly, and ruthlessly. First, money. Not hiding it. Not draining accounts. Just separating reality from illusion. I opened a new account in my name and redirected my paycheck there. I documented every shared expense, every transfer, every small withdrawal she made that added up to something larger. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning to make sure I couldn't be blindsided. Then, schedule. I adjusted my work hours to be home more in the evenings. On paper, it looked like flexibility. In practice, it meant I became the consistent parent, the one helping Lucas with homework, cooking dinner, keeping bedtime routines intact. I wasn't building a case. I was building a record of reality. Emily barely noticed. People deep in an affair assume everyone else is frozen in place while their life accelerates. She was living in a future without me, and she hadn't told the present yet. She started pushing harder. Small criticisms became sharper. You're so emotionally flat, she said. You never fight for anything. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a wall. I almost thanked her. She was handing me her script, line by line. One night, she tried to provoke a fight, raised her voice, accused me of not caring, suggested maybe we needed space. That word, space, the euphemism of people who want freedom without consequences. I looked at her calmly. If that's what you want, just say it. She froze. Not because she didn't want space, but because she didn't want consequences. She wanted freedom without responsibility, desire without damage, a clean conscience built on my silence. I didn't mean it like that, she stammered, backpedaling, touching my arm. I pulled away. That was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. After that, she doubled down on the performance. Perfect weekend plans. Casual affection in front of Lucas. Texts checking in on me. Every move designed to make the world look normal while it was already fractured. I let it happen, because while she was busy managing appearances, I was locking down what mattered: my finances, my routines, my emotional control. I spoke to a lawyer, not to file, just to understand. To know what documentation mattered, what timelines looked like, what actually counted in court. Secrets leak. Silence doesn't. The final piece was emotional. I had to kill the part of me that still wanted her to choose me. That part is dangerous. It makes you forgive things that shouldn't be forgiven. It makes you believe excuses that don't match actions. So I forced myself to see Emily clearly. Not as my wife. Not as Lucas's mother. But as someone capable of lying to my face every day and sleeping just fine. Once I did that, I felt something settle inside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. And the moment I became ready was the moment she made the biggest mistake of all. One that would expose everything without me having to say a single word. Her biggest mistake wasn't cheating. It was assuming I'd stay predictable. She told me on a Thursday morning that she'd be out of town for the weekend. A last-minute girls' trip. Casual, like she was going to the grocery store. No build-up. No nerves. Confidence like armor. I nodded. Okay. That's when I knew she had packed more than clothes. She left Friday afternoon, kissed Lucas goodbye, told him she'd bring him something fun. She hugged me longer than usual, not affection, insurance. A final check to make sure the foundation was still holding. The door closed, and for the first time in months, the apartment felt honest. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to, because when people think they're safe, they get sloppy. That night, I did something I hadn't done yet. I talked to my son. Not about the affair, not about his mother, but about change. About how adults sometimes make decisions that have nothing to do with their kids. About how love doesn't always mean staying in the same place forever. He listened quietly, asked one question. Are you and Mom breaking up? No, I said, and meant it. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She told me you two were basically roommates. I stared. I didn't reply. A minute later, I didn't know about your son. There it was. Jake. Not a villain from the shadows. Just another man fed a version of reality that made him comfortable doing something unforgivable. I felt a flash of pity. Then it passed. I still didn't reply. Because when you stay silent, people panic. And panicked people confess. He sent 3 more messages. Apologies. Explanations. Justifications. How Emily said the marriage was over. How I was cold. How she was trapped. Every lie, neatly delivered. I took screenshots. Locked my phone. Then I did the most important thing that weekend. Nothing. I slept. I cooked. I played with Lucas. I let her fantasy run uninterrupted while reality kept moving without her. She came back Sunday night glowing. Sun-tired. Happy. Careless. She started talking before her bag hit the floor. Stories. Laughter. A version of herself I hadn't seen in years. She was high on the belief that she was getting away with it. I let her finish. Then I said calmly, quietly, "Did you tell him we were roommates?" Her smile collapsed. "What?" she whispered. "The guy you were seeing," I said. "Did you tell him we were basically roommates?" She went pale. Not angry. Not defensive. Exposed. "Who told you that?" she whispered. "I didn't ask who. I asked what you told him." She started crying. Loud. Messy. Real. I didn't yell. I didn't insult. I didn't accuse. I just said, "I know enough. And I'm done." She begged. Swore it was over. Said it meant nothing. Said she loved me. Said everything people say when the floor drops out from under them. I listened, then walked past her to check on Lucas. That's when she realized. She hadn't just lost a husband. She'd lost control of the story. And from that moment on, everything she did, Every tear, every apology, every attempt to manipulate would only decide how she felt, not if. Because I wasn't asking anymore. I was leaving, and she finally understood that silence wasn't weakness. The morning after I told her I was done, I saw Emily's real face for the first time in 12 years. Not the charming wife. Not the wounded, apologetic mother. Not the woman I married. The strategist. She woke up early, acting calm. Too calm. Made coffee. Spoke softly. Tried that tone. The one people use when they think they can still negotiate terms after the deal is dead. I let her talk. She admitted to some of it. Carefully. Sanitized. A short emotional thing, she said. One mistake. Nothing physical at first. She paced it like a lawyer delivering a confession. Enough to sound honest, never enough to be accountable. When that didn't move me, she changed tactics. Anger. So what? You're just going to throw everything away? She snapped. 12 years. For what? Your pride. That's when I realized something crucial. She believed my self-respect was inconvenient. I told her I wasn't throwing anything away. I was refusing to carry something already rotten. Her eyes narrowed. Then she went for the throat. You're emotionally unavailable, she said. You drove me into it. Any woman would have done the same. And then the line I'll never forget. If you were more of a man, I wouldn't have needed anyone else. That was it. The raw, unfiltered truth about who she really was. Not remorse. Not guilt. Pure self-preservation. She wasn't sorry she hurt me. She was angry she'd lost leverage. Angry that I wasn't begging. Angry that the version of me she'd built her excuses around had disappeared. I told her we'd be separating. I'd already spoken to a lawyer. My priority was Lucas, and I expected her to act accordingly. Her eyes hardened. You think you can take him from me? She asked. I stayed calm. No one's taking anything. We do this clean, or a court decides. Your choice. She stormed out. By the end of the week, she moved into the spare room temporarily. By the next, she was spinning stories to friends. We'd grown apart. I'd shut down. She tried everything. I didn't correct her. Because truth doesn't need narrators. Lies collapse under their own weight. Lucas noticed. He asked the question I'd been dreading. Are you and Mom breaking up? I didn't lie. We're changing how our family works. But we both love you. None of this is your fault. She tried one last move that night. Seduction. Standing in the doorway, wearing something she hadn't worn for me in years. We can start over, she said. I miss us. I miss you. I realized then she didn't miss me. She missed the version of herself who felt secure, untouchable, untied from consequences. I told her no. She laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. Maybe. But regret hurts less than living with someone who looks you in the eye and blames you for the knife in your back. That night marked the start of a silent war. Two adults in the same apartment. Neither pretending they were on the same side. Both knowing every move would decide who walked away intact and who didn't. After that night, everything changed. Emily tried everything. Manipulation, charm, fake tears, silent treatment, guilt trips, but I had stopped being predictable. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't reacting. I was calm, present, observing every move. That kind of calm is worse than fury because it forces liars to reveal themselves without any prompting. And she started slipping. Little things first. Forgetting to mention who she called. Over-explaining where she went. Leaving texts open she thought I wouldn't see. Every tiny misstep was a crack in the armor she thought unbreakable. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. People like Emily reveal themselves if you watch long enough. By the third week, the cracks became holes. Her friends noticed mood swings. Her perfect weekend getaway turned into excuses. Hotel overbooked. Plans changed. The other guy busy. Every lie leaked. And with every leak, she looked smaller. Not physically. Mentally. Morally. One evening, she came home from work drinks late. Hair messy. Perfume faintly wrong. Avoiding my eyes. That's when I finally spoke. I know where you've been. She froze mid-step. Laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I don't need to explain, I said. I just need to say, you're running out of places to hide. Panic flickered in her eyes. Not for me, but for herself. She started lying faster. Floods of excuses. I met friends. I had a client meeting. I stopped by my mom's. She didn't realize she was giving me everything voluntarily. By the end of the month, she was exhausted. Energy gone. The double life that had been effortless became impossible. She looked at me sometimes, flashes of fear in her eyes. Not for me, but for herself. And finally, she started talking. Not confessions. Not apologies. Just details. Too many details. Dates. Locations. Messages. Conversations she thought I'd never piece together. She didn't realize she was handing me the entire story. I listened. Took notes. Not for court. Not for revenge. For clarity. For sanity. By the time she realized what was happening, it was too late. She had already lost. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Not victorious. Not cruel. Just free. Because the hardest part of betrayal isn't catching someone. It's surviving them without becoming them. I had done that. But the final act, the one that would close this chapter completely, was still ahead. By now, Emily had exhausted every trick in her book. Tears, anger, seduction, guilt, excuses, nothing worked. She was collapsing under the weight of her own lies, and I was just watching. Calm, detached, observant, patient. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. And the way to closure was control. My control, not hers. I told her we needed to sit down and talk. Not about us. Not about the marriage. About practicalities. She thought it was a chance to sway me. To charm me. To manipulate me one last time. I handed her a folder. Inside, all the evidence I had quietly collected over months. Emails. Drafts. Texts. Her own words. Time-stamped. Organized. Everything. She stared at it like I'd dropped a bomb. I can explain, she started. No, I said. You already did. Everything you said. Every excuse. Every lie. It's all here. You told yourself you could rewrite the story. You can't. This isn't punishment. This is reality. She sank into the chair. Tears, guilt, panic, all tangled together. I didn't gloat. I didn't speak. I just let her stare at herself in paper and screen, unable to deny what she'd done. By the end of that week, she left. Not angrily. Not peacefully. Just left. Took her things. Took her fantasy. And for the first time in 12 years, she had to navigate life on her own. Weeks later, Jake disappeared. He hadn't been in it for love. Not for loyalty. Just thrills. The one thing she thought she had was gone. And she realized too late that I had been preparing for this outcome all along. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just breathed. Life didn't have to be dramatic. Justice doesn't always need a hammer. Sometimes it's the quiet, calculated act of surviving better than the person who tried to destroy you. And that's what I did. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Free. In control. Emily's absence wasn't a wound anymore. It was relief. And Lucas didn't just survive the chaos. He thrived. Learned that stability can exist even when the adults around him fail. Because sometimes the hardest part of betrayal isn't catching someone. It's deciding not to let their choices destroy the rest of your life. And I chose life. A year has passed since Emily left. A year since the apartment finally felt honest. Not because she was gone, but because truth had room to breathe. I'll admit, for months, I replayed every lie, every manipulation, every excuse. I obsessed over how long she'd been seeing Jake, who she'd told, how she justified it to herself. But obsessing doesn't give you peace. Perspective does. Here's what I learned. The brutal, unfiltered truth. Trust is earned, not assumed. Once someone proves they can't honor it, silence is stronger than confrontation. People who lie fear empty rooms more than exposure. You can survive betrayal. Not just survive, but rebuild. Protect your mental space. Refuse to react impulsively. And don't hand the liar power by letting your emotions control you. Children see everything. Lucas noticed long before I did. Protecting him meant controlling my own emotions, maintaining routines, and showing stability even when adults fail. Silence is the ultimate weapon. Not aggression, not yelling. Quiet observation forces liars to reveal themselves and allows you to exit the story with dignity. Self-respect is non-negotiable. I stopped being Emily's husband the moment I realized she had stopped being my wife in every meaningful way. That private, silent decision was the pivot point. I don't hate her. That's wasted energy. I don't fantasize about revenge. She got what she deserved by living with her choices. I focus on what matters. My son, my stability, my peace. The sting of betrayal lingers sometimes, but it no longer defines me. The hardest truth? The most devastating punishment wasn't screaming, slamming doors, or exposing her. It was understanding everything, seeing clearly, and walking away quietly. Emily thought she could rewrite reality. I just didn't let her. I didn't fight. I didn't chase. I didn't beg. I survived. And that was enough.